representing integers using a number line. First things first, we need to go over a few things about the makeup of a number line before we start to use it. So some important key parts of a number line that we need to remember is the fact that a number line always starts at the origin, and the origin is the number 0. So anytime you make a movement on a number line, you're always starting from the origin, or 0. Also, some things to remember about a number line is to make sure that you are using equal intervals on the number line. So from 0, if you're going from 0 to 1 as the first hash mark, then the next hash mark has to be 2, and so on and so forth, 3, 4, and 5. An example of unequal intervals would be going from 0 to 1 as the first hash mark, and then calling this distance, which is equal to the first from 0 to 1, calling this distance, I don't know, equivalent to an addition of 3. So going from 0 to 1 and then jumping all the way up to 4, and then maybe calling the next one 5, and then maybe going to the next one being 9. This is an example of what not to do with equal intervals, or trying to make equal intervals. So if you're increasing by 1 for the first hash mark and all of your hash marks are equal distance, then it has to either increase by 1 on the right hand side or decrease by 1 on the left hand side as you go. As far as movement on the number line goes, if you are moving to the right on a number line, so if you're starting at 0 and you're moving right, or you're starting at one of these negative numbers and you're moving right, what you're doing is you are increasing in value as you move. And then the same thing would go for movement to the left on a number line. Instead of increasing in value, you would be decreasing in value. So the further left you go on a number line, the smaller the values. Okay, let's look at representing some integers on the number line. Once again, I've gone through and verbally described the integers. If you have any questions on verbal descriptions of intervals, there is a video, of integers. There is a video posted, verbal description of integers, and hopefully that'll clear up some of your questions. For my first integer, I'm looking at representing positive 5 on a number line. So I've pre-drawn my number line. And again, I'm going to start from 0 at my origin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move 5 spaces to the right. I'm going to place my point on the hash mark here to show that I just plotted positive 5 on the number line. So what I'm looking for here is the dot on the positive 5. That shows positive 5 represented on the number line. The next integer is the opposite of positive 3, or a negative 3. So if I were looking at showing a positive 3 on a number line, I would be starting here at 0, of course, and I would be moving 1, 2, 3 spaces to the right. However, this is a positive 3, and I don't want the positive 3. I want the opposite of that positive 3. So I'm going to take whatever action I just showed or used, and I'm going to do the opposite. So what I did was I moved 3 spaces to the right. So to find the opposite of a positive 3, I'm going to move 3 spaces to the left. So my point plotted should be on that negative 3. So the opposite of a positive 3, this phrase right here would be diagrammed here, and then also negative 3. Starting at 0, you're moving to the left for negatives. Would be right there on that negative 3 as well. So those two phrases mean the same thing, they mean the same number. So typically what you're going to be plotting here is just the negative 3. You won't have to go for the positive 3 and then looking at the opposite of it. You'll just go straight to moving left 3 spaces. The next integer is the opposite of positive 7. So if I were looking at positive 7, I'd be taking, starting at 0 here at my origin, and I would be moving 7 spots to the right, because positive means move to the right. And that takes me right there. But the thing is, I don't want a positive 7. I want the opposite, given in my description over here. So instead of moving 7 spots to the right from 0, I'm going to move 7 spots to the left. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I just did. So that takes me to a negative 7 here. And typically on number lines, whenever you plot negative numbers, you don't mess with the, okay, I'm going to go to positive 7 first, and then I'm going to look at the opposite of what I just did and go the opposite way. You're just going to look at the negative 7 and realize that negative means to move left from 0. So I would start at 0 and I would move left 7 spaces. So my point would be plotted here on that hash mark as being a negative 7. And then the very last example would be the opposite of negative 2. Now typically you're going to see this written with parentheses around that negative 2 just to separate the signs there. So if I went to negative 2 from 0, negative means to move left 2 spaces. It would take me to this point right here, a negative 2. However, in my description, I don't want negative 2. I want the opposite of what I just did. So instead of moving 2 spaces to the left, I'm going to do the exact opposite and move 2 spaces to the right. So the opposite of a negative 2 is in fact a positive 2. And this is how you would represent that positive 2 on a number line. If you have any questions about representing integers on a number line, stop by a morning tutoring session with some questions ready to ask.